All right, let's just jump right in. What if everything we thought we knew about aging is just plain wrong? That's pretty much the core question from Dr. Peter Attia in his huge bestseller, Outlive. And I'll tell you, it is kicking off a massive conversation about not just living longer, but living so much better for longer. Today, we're going to break down his biggest ideas.
I mean, that really hits home, doesn't it? This quote just perfectly sums up what this is all about. It's a universal feeling. We all want to thrive, not just stick around. But the way to actually get there, according to Attia, means we have to radically rethink our entire game plan for health.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. Attia calls it the longevity revolution. And the central idea here is a total shift in what we're aiming for. For decades, we've been obsessed with lifespan, just the raw number of years we live. But Attia argues we need to be chasing something else entirely, something way more important. And that thing is healthspan. Think about it this way. It's the difference between being 90 years old and hiking a trail versus being 90 years old and not being able to get out of your own chair. We're not just talking about adding years to your life, we're talking about adding life to your years. So, what's getting in the way? Well, that brings us right to the heart of the problem. And to explain it, Attia uses this really powerful metaphor that came to him in a dream, of all places. He calls our current medical system Medicine 2.0. And, let's be clear, it's amazing in a lot of ways. It has literally doubled our life expectancy by getting unbelievably good at handling what he calls fast death. Things like accidents, infections, major injuries. If you get hit by a car, you absolutely want Medicine 2.0. But it has this one giant, massive blind spot when it comes to the diseases of slow death. So in this dream he keeps having, he's on a sidewalk, and he's just frantically trying to catch all these eggs that are falling from a tall building. He's running around with a basket, but he can't get to all of them. Eggs are splattering all over the place, and then it hits him. This is modern medicine. We're down on the ground, just reacting, desperately trying to save patients after they're already falling apart. And that leads to the million-dollar question, right? We're so focused on catching the eggs, we never look up and ask, wait a minute, who's on the roof throwing them, and how do we get them to stop? Because those eggs, well, they represent the chronic diseases of aging. And they have names. Attia calls them the 4 horsemen. You're looking at them right here. These are the chronic diseases that, statistically speaking, will be the cause of death for most of us. And the whole problem with Medicine 2.0 is that it basically waits and waits until these things are a huge problem before it even steps in. It waits for the eggs to hit the pavement. So if that's the problem, what's the solution? If Medicine 2.0 is all about reaction, what does the alternative look like? Well, Attia calls it Medicine 3.0. And you can really see the difference laid out right here. It is a total paradigm shift. We're moving from being reactive to being relentlessly proactive. From just treating symptoms to actually preventing the disease from ever getting a foothold. It's not one size fits all anymore, it's completely personalized to you. And the goal, the big goal, it shifts from just a long lifespan to a long, high-quality health span. And this quote just nails the mindset shift we all have to make. You just can't wait until you're 65 to start worrying about what your life will be like at 85. The groundwork for that future is laid decades before. But, and this is a huge but, Attia says the physical stuff, exercise, diet, sleep, that's not the whole story. Not even close. Because building that future, it takes more than just being physically fit. And this is where Attia's message, for me, gets really, really deep. He argues that the single most important and the most forgotten piece of this entire puzzle is our emotional health. He brings up this question that he learned from a mentor, and it totally changed his life. Are you spending all your time and energy building up your resume virtues, the stuff that looks good on paper, your achievements, your titles? Or are you focused on your eulogy virtues, the things people will actually say about you at your funeral? Your kindness, your patience, your character. And look, he's incredibly open about his own struggles in the book. At the height of his career, when he looked successful to everyone, he was an emotional wreck, full of anger, and it was damaging his most important relationships. And he had this huge realization. What's the point of living to be 100 if you're miserable and alone? That's when he understood that emotional health isn't some fluffy, soft skill. No way. It is the absolute bedrock, the foundation of your health span. So you look at this picture, right? And you see this amazing physical change in his squat form. It's really impressive. But what he says is the real transformation, the hardest work he did during that time, it wasn't in the gym. It was all internal. It was him in therapy, literally rebuilding himself emotionally from the ground up. And he makes it clear this isn't just some abstract idea. He gives actual practical tools. One comes from something called dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT. A key technique is called opposite action. It sounds really simple, but it's incredibly powerful. When you feel that surge of anger and you just want to snap at someone, you do the exact opposite. You force yourself to be calm, to listen with empathy. You're not just bottling it up. You are actively retraining your brain's response. It's like a muscle that you can train just like any other. Okay, so after all this, what's the takeaway? The thing about Attia's work is it's not a simple to-do list. It's more of a call to action, a call for a whole new strategy for your life. Now, it's also really important to put this in perspective. Critics, like the writer known as the skeptical cardiologist, will point out, and they have a good point, that a lot of what Attia talks about is really on the cutting edge. It's speculative. We don't have decades of perfect, randomized trials for all of it. And that's okay, because the science is still evolving.
But maybe that's the whole point, right? Attia's real goal isn't for you to copy his life exactly. What he really wants is to teach you how to think for yourself about your own health, to stop being a passive passenger in your life and to start being the captain of your own ship, using the best information you can get your hands on to chart your own course.
So that brings us back to the beginning, back to that dream. And it leaves us with one final question for you. In your life, with your health, are you just going to stand there on the sidewalk, reacting, trying to catch the eggs after they've already started to fall? Or are you ready to start climbing up to the rooftop and stop them from being thrown in the first place?